I believe that the extra funds found in the budget of Boston, Massachusetts should be used to fight the opioid epidemic. The number of people affected by the opioid crisis has increased dramatically over the last decade or so. While males are more likely to use opioids, both males and females are being found to abuse drugs in an almost exponential fashion. In only the first 9 months of 2017, there have already been 932 reported opioid-related deaths in the state of Massachusetts. There are still hundreds of deaths estimated to be reported in the remainder of this year. In 2016, it was estimated that about 64,000 people died because of opioids. However, in 2003, only 379 people were reported to have died because of these circumstances. In order to fight the opioid crisis, I want to propose a plan to establish new addiction clinics. New addiction centers will allow for the most effective treatment, counseling, and educational process for not only victims and their families, but students in the public schools. The visual aid depicts the spread of opioid use. The first picture is from 2005, while the second picture is from 2014. This is an alarming increase in opioid use, which signals the importance and relevance of my urge to fight the impending crisis. Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker has begun a campaign alongside several state universities to educate social work undergraduate and graduate students with the proper tools to help to more effectively counsel those who have fallen to the dangers of drugs. If these postgraduate students are employed at the new addiction clinics, we can ensure a strong counseling and treatment program for victims and families. But I also think that it is very important that we establish a more effective program for the students in the public schools in order to ensure that they have the knowledge to make educated decisions if they are ever to encounter situations which may be dangerous in regards to drugs and alcohol. The current drug awareness program for students begins in the 5th grade and ends in the 8th grade. I think that the program should be introduced at a younger age and then continue on until students graduate from high school. The social workers would be able to work with the law enforcement officials in order to create an effective and worthwhile educational process. The opioid crisis affects almost everyone, even if it is not directly. As parents, children, educators, family members, friends, and good Samaritans, we do not want to see those around us fall to the dangers of drugs. I am reaching out to you as parents as a graduate of the Massachusetts public schools. I am not someone who fell to the temptations of drugs. However, I can empathize with those who did in my class. I can attest to the fact that the schools did not properly educate us about the dangers of drugs. In high school, several speakers came each year to talk to us about addiction. However, after talking to my peers that I knew used drugs, this attempt had no effect on them. Sadly, by high school, it is oftentimes too late to approach students about this topic. As students, we were briefly educated about drugs and alcohol. However, looking back, I can say that the program primarily focused on saying no to alcohol instead of drugs. Based on this, I hope that you can see that children may have fallen to the temptations of drugs because they did not understand the consequences. As parents, no one wants to see their child suffer. I hope that you can support my argument to establish new addiction centers with a new emphasis on education for the sake of your own children. I hope that you can empathize with people who are already directly affected by the opioid crisis. Implementing new addiction centers is vital for the recovery of suffering addicts and their families. The opioid crisis is a severe problem facing the entire country and is dramatically worsening each year. With your votes, we can implement a plan that has the power to change the direction the country is currently heading. Come to the City Council meeting to express your support.